Hello and welcome to this episode of Women Unheard. Today I have with me Jill Galliher, the CEO and owner of Galliher Home Team. Probably, in my opinion, one of the, God, I hate that I'm about to say this because somebody's going to get mad at me. Anyone, probably multiple people, in fact, but one of the biggest real estate agencies in the community.
That's fair. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Not an opinion. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Fact.
Okay. So, but yeah, I feel like there are going to be like a few folks who are like, what the hell? But it's true. Like your company was like the first real estate company that I heard of when my husband and I moved here.
Okay.
And I don't think it was just because we sat on a committee together, but maybe. No,
It's been around a long time.
Yeah, I saw you a lot on social media. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So I got licensed in 2007. So I've been around for a long time. And then a few years, so we grew a team. It's been that same brand for some time. And then a couple years ago, we bought a building downtown, actually during COVID. So we're right in front of Mitchell College.
You have a fantastic location in town, especially in the summer.
A few years before we bought it, I was at a closing. A good friend of mine, Peter Simon, attorney, said, "Oh, I actually know of a building that's going to be for sale downtown." I was like, "I'm not buying anything." And a couple years later, I kind of start putting some feelers out to rent. And somebody said, "Well, that building's for sale." And I was like, "I can't buy a commercial building. Are you crazy?" And I went and met with the owner. He believed in my vision for the company, my love for downtown and my love for Statesville. And he took my offer over a cash offer. I did not know this until long after we closed. And we've been there. That location is just it's a dream. It's a dream come true.
It's a beautiful building in a really great spot.
Yes.
So wait, do you have to like shoo people off your lawn for?
We don't. I mean, like, I feel like it's like my backyard. Like, I walked out at Friday after 5 the other night, and there's people everywhere, and I feel like I'm having a barbecue at my house, and it's like it feels it's so personal. And then that's why we do all the the wine walks and the art crawls and all this stuff, because it just feels like home, an extension of it. And then I don't have to have everybody at my house. So like they're there downtown and so it's good. I pinch myself. I make myself drive through downtown every single day, because I love watching the shop owners sweep off their sidewalks and clean. Like, it's so small town USA, but it is so endearing to me. So I drive that every day, and I just am filled with gratitude really every day for what I get to do.
Well, I got to tell, and so I'm going to come back to that on another level in a second, but my husband and I I come from a town like that,
okay.
Right? And so he moved to that town when we bought our house together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first he moved to my house, and we bought a house together in that town. But it was literally that, not quite as big as downtown Statesville. And downtown Statesville is so beautifully laid out. Like, it's just so inviting, right? Like the wide sidewalks, all the outdoor seating for like all the different places. But like I come from a small, super cute, historic town that had like bluestone sidewalks, pedestrian lighting. The sidewalks are like nowhere near what Statesville's are, because it's a historic town. Sure. Like, every property is on the National Historic Registry. Our house was I love that. I mean, I don't think either of us would ever do it again.
Sure.
But it was a really beautiful, beautiful town. And exactly that. Everybody said hello to Murphy before they said hello to me. Because, I would walk to work every day because I lived in town. My office was in town. Like, I loved it. And I think we both really miss that.
It's the community. It's right. Like, it's the connections, the community, it's, if you've not experienced it, I don't know. I mean, like, it's just special. I don't know.
Yeah. Nope. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'll circle back to this. I love that you and I are sitting here together because when I first came here, we had a rub over Statesville.
She ain't lying.
Yeah. Here's my, northern ass walking into things. I don't like Statesville, but I want to. And Jill was like, bitch, stop saying that. This is my town. But what I love is that
I took that personal.
I know you did, girl, and I totally can appreciate that. And what I love is that you and I got to sit down together and like literally say where I was like, I was definitely feeling some kind of way about what you said, about why I said what I said, like coming, like which leads me to say that I always feel like when you have a rub with someone, you really need to check yourself and what you're bringing to why you have a rub. I literally had this conversation with another girlfriend the other day when she was like, "Oh, I don't like this so-and-so." And I was like, well, I know you both. I did my peacemaker thing again. Well, I know you both. And I feel like how are you feeling when you're coming at her? Because I don't think that that's how she meant that at all. And I said, and she goes, you know what? You might be right. Because I do feel A, B, C, D, E. And I said, yes, girl. I feel like you just need to have the conversation and put it all on the table and own your piece of the sidewalk and just be honest and vulnerable.
And it's funny, yes, all of that is true. And kudos to her for being able to receive that because not everybody can. And the background is having been attached to a real estate company in Mooresville, who everybody thinks the world stops at exit 36. Statesville has been the redheaded stepchild. Well, I've been in real estate almost 18 years, and for 18 years, we've always been, Like literally the other day, I had somebody say, well, Statesville, it ain't that bad. And we joked about like making t-shirts. Statesville, it ain't that bad. Because it's been that. So yeah, of course you come in and I'm like, more of the same. You don't know. And so, that's my stance. Your stance is, yeah, I come from somewhere it's different and it's hard to get into that community. And so, yeah, like also we're both strong personalities that you can handle it, I can handle it. And I think we made everybody in that room uncomfortable.
We definitely did.
I was like, maybe you should stop saying that.
Yeah, you're absolutely. I think everybody in the room was like, ooh. What's happening?
I know. And so, yes, but I think if you've had that confrontation and then you can have a conversation, then you really understand where each other are. And then you're really allowed to be friends and there's not much that you can't work through because you started it with like beef, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So which there's not enough women in the world. I feel like that you can have really hard, fierce conversations with that can handle it and not leave offended, right? Or hurt or no, we're good. We're good.
Well, I also just feel like so many of us women, right, are wearing like so many hats and are going through so many things personally, professionally, and, probably 20 prongs in each one of those two spaces that we are generally a little bit more emotional. And I think that tends to lend itself to our interactions occasionally. Not saying that like women are like, oh my God, we're too emotional. Blah, 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 blah. By no means.
Right.
Because I think that absolutely makes us the stronger, more fairer sex because we can balance the two. But I do think though that there are a lot of women that, hold on to things because they're not able to look at themselves yet. But that's not just women. I think that's everybody.
Oh yeah, self-awareness is the funny thing is a year ago I started a course called Experiential MBA, and I went into that thinking I was so self-aware. which is ironic, right? And I might have known myself, but I didn't control myself in a lot of ways. And self-awareness is much more than just kind of knowing how you are. That is a scapegoat in and of itself. Well, that's just how I am. It doesn't have to be how you are. That's how you choose to continue to be.
Right.
So we can all change. And that took me through a whole journey of like, oh yeah, I really am not succeeding in that, and have worked on a lot of me in that area too. A lot of areas, but yeah.
I I don't know. I really admire you. I really do. Because multiple reasons. But the fact that you were open to then receiving me after I said the things that I said about Statesville, and having the ability to move forward. But I knew that I was feeling some kind of way about being in this whole new place at the age that I was in, in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
My company went from big, bold, all the things to like half of its size. I just got married, just all the like. Everybody always jokes, I never do anything small. I could do all the things all at once. Like that is just right. And that is a like prime example of that. And so even after that, I stalked your ass on social media. Like not like literally. I wasn't like every day like Jill Galliher, what's she up to? But like when you were posting, I was like, why are we not friends? Like I feel like we would be friends. Like right. Like she is smart, she is driven, like she's done some big shit. Like I dig this lady. Like I have like total respect for her. And then when you made that post earlier, was it this year?
Probably.
Yeah. Which prompted me to ask you to come on my podcast to talk about what we're going to talk about today. Okay. I really, in that post was like, I really do love her. Like I just can't even, I have so many questions. I have so many questions. And, like the early years of being a parent, as I'm learning, are the absolute fucking hardest on you as a human, on your marriage, on everything.
Just wait till the teenage years come.
Oh, no.
You think these are hard.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So asking you to come on and talk about this, I was like really nervous. Like when we sat down for coffee that day, I already knew in my head I wanted to ask you to come on and talk about this. So I was like, I don't think we're there yet. We have to be friends first.
You were so funny. So funny. I'm an open book. Like I did say in that when you asked me about it, like I don't even know exactly how I said it. What did I say? What did I say to you about
what you suffer in secret doesn't help anyone? And I wrote that down because I was just like, I get chills when I say that out loud, because I think that is so beautiful, because clearly what you went through, what you're probably talking about now, is like, I think one of the hardest things you probably ever went through.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then to still have an open heart and be loving and all those things, I think is really incredible. And I think that, I don't know. I guess I see two sides of the coin. I was going to say, I think that a lot of people end marriages for a lot less.
Sure.
Believe you me, I've thought about it multiple times in the last 2 years, as my husband knows, as he probably has and has. It also, right? Like marriage is freaking hard. It is so hard.
Very hard.
Especially when I don't know, I think probably all the time. But like, I think in our case, like, I think we didn't get married till I was 37, 38, right? And I had all those years to be Katrina fucking Foster, which is what I was called in the Northeast, right?
That's funny.
To then, be married. Right? To like try to like co-create with someone else, especially on the heels of a bad co-creation, right? From in a personal or professional landscape. Sure. So,
well, and I don't want to say that you are a control freak. I am controlling, which is why it makes it hard to be a partner, because I like control, I like to direct, it's also what makes parenting really hard. It's why the teenage years are so hard, because you lose control of what they're doing. You have influence, but you no longer have control. And that's hard. Ooh, that's hard.
I will say, I definitely do still like to be in control, but I know I was way worse before 35, before my, as we were talking before we started really getting into it, like before my whole sort of like epiphany of, what am I doing? Who am I? Like, I don't want to be this person. I think I still work on it. I still have to work on it, and I catch myself. I recently had a spiritual session where I have to, not just me, but my husband also, we both have to learn that surrendering is okay. And that, you know, that there's strength in that vulnerability of surrender. And I think becoming a mom, I have OCD, which I didn't really think was like a real thing for me. But I noticed that when I am sleep deprived and becoming, having Sophia has never slept, my OCD is in overdrive all the time. I'm like, everything has to be clean. Everything has to be in this place. So that's definitely a part of control for sure.
I was getting ready to say, I've seen that in myself when things are out of control at work. My home life, you better watch out, because I'm going to clamp down on my husband and my children. Because I can be the real me at home of like, you better do this and this and this. And it has to be this level of expectation that nobody can meet, because I was afraid to lead at work. Because again, strong leaders and women are just bitches. And I never wanted to be a bitch. Like, that word will cut me at my knees. Actually, a friend of mine, as a business owner, she said, we were at a party one time, and I said something, and she was like, oh, you bitch. And I was like, I felt like she cut my legs out from underneath. It deflated me. She had no idea.
Like, she wasn't saying it like,
she didn't really mean it. And right. She did not mean it. And I knew that. But I called her the next day. It's funny. She's going to comment on this video. I called her like the next day, and I was like, hey, not everybody takes that word the way you meant it. Like, I've fought for many years to not be that, because I can be, but I certainly don't want to be labeled that, and I don't need my dear friend to call me that. She was like, I am so sorry. I was like, I know you are. I just want you to be aware that that word is hurtful to a lot of people. To other people, they're like, whatever, or own it proudly. I don't. I try not to be one. So I'll lean into that a little bit. But anyway, yeah.
But I think everybody's perception of what a bitch is different, right? So,
and maybe that's my Southern upbringing. I like to be, like Julia Sugarbaker, right? Like, that's the epitome of a Southern strong leader. And the night the lights went out in Georgia. Like, but she was amazing. But just call me Julia Sugarbaker. This is where I want to be in life.
Not me. I think I'm Martha Stewart.
Oh.
I hope not to do a jail stint.
Right. That's hilarious.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. I don't know what the future holds.
Fair.
So to that point, being in control and controlling, I don't even know how to start this, right? Because I feel like, to me, and I said this, before we started, it's so sensitive, and I think this conversation could be, so many women can identify with what we're probably going to talk about.
Sure.
I can't tell you how many mom groups all for old moms. Not even kidding you. I can't tell you how many old moms, 35 plus. Okay, well, that's me. Old new moms.
We're old new moms.
That women are like talking about like leaving their husbands for like, to them it's pertinent, right?
Sure.
But everybody throws their hands up quickly and does not tend to truly uphold the vows that they take. And I know I know it's fucking hard some days.
Yes, it is. It still is. It still is.
But how did so?
You want me to just tell the story?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm squirming and sweating.
No, you're fine. Come on. So, all right. Well, first, Matt and I got married. I was 20. He was 22. Okay. So we got married very young, high school sweethearts. I met him when I was 13. Like,
oh, wow.
On the heels of turning 14, but I was 13 when we met. We'd been married 13 years. He was traveling. So this was, 2013. We had 2 kids, a first grader and a preschooler. So they were little. And this was the worst economic times since the Great Depression, maybe even worse than Depression, right? He was in construction, new home construction, and his boss, of course, like every other general contractor, was losing money hand over fist. So Matt he takes a job at Lowe's in the store with a 40% cut in pay. Real estate was in the toilet, right? Like, I was not making money. We could not pay our bills. He had an opportunity to go work for a solar company. So they did solar farms. So he was gone 28 days a month, probably.
Oh.
On average, 26 to 28. It was a lot.
I whine when Tom travels 2 weeks.
It was a lot, but it was paying our bills, like, kind of. It was keeping us afloat. There was a lot that led up to this. So he had an affair. I take 50% responsibility for the state of our marriage up to that point. I take no responsibility for an affair. But he had an affair, and I knew something was weird. Like, our intuition is strong and powerful.
Yep.
So something was funky. My son would have basketball practice at like 7 o'clock at night. And I knew that if I didn't talk to Matt before, for some reason, I never talked to him after. Like, it was weird. He wouldn't call us back. So this kind of kept going. And I sent him a text one night and I was like, hey, I missed you. Like, nothing. The next day, it was a Saturday, I called him and I said, what's going on? Like, typically, if a wife says, I miss you, you get some kind of response. And he said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Note, he did not say, I want a divorce, because we have always said divorce is not an option. Like, we took our vows very seriously. And what came out of my mouth when he said, I'm done, he didn't say anything about another woman. He said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. I don't want to do this. And I said, no. Controlling.
Oh, I was like, wow, that's really strong. I didn't realize you were getting some. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I was like, no. I said, I don't know what's going on with you. No, we're Christians, so this is part of my story. I said, I don't know what is going on with you, but we are a cord of 3 strands, and just because you're unraveling doesn't mean God and I are. Where are you? And he was like, so I packed up my kids. I took them to my mom's. I drove 4 hours to Little Washington, North Carolina, which is a really small place. And I didn't tell him I was coming. I called him and I said, where are you? He said, you're in town, aren't you? And I said, you bet your ass I am. Where are you? So we spent the next 18 hours talking, and I was talking to a stranger. It was like I did not even know him. And we dated for 6 or 7 years, had been married for 13. I've known this man for 20 years, but didn't know him. And of course he was like, well, life's not fun anymore. This isn't, because we were struggling financially.
Oh, you're grown-ups.
Right. But down there, they were not. So that company that he worked for brought a economy to that town that they'd never seen. They bought off the cops. They were drinking and driving all the time. They would go to restaurants and tip waitresses $1,000. Have fun, boys. So he was living it up, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Wow. Meanwhile, I'm at home
with 2 small kids.
2 small kids dealing with the really hard stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say I was an easy wife, like demanding, high strung. I definitely wanted him to lead us, but I did not allow him to lead us. It was, okay, well, please take the lead, but let me show you how to do it because you're not doing it right. Or I would take it back. when I was in therapy during all of this, my counselor was like, you realize this is manipulation. You manipulate him until he gives up. He has no masculinity left because you've taken it all. That's fun to hear.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that's a tough pill.
But I needed to hear it. And I gave her permission. I said, rip me to shreds and build me back, because this isn't working. And I want my marriage to work. So he comes home that weekend. I still know nothing about this woman. I don't know that she exists. I just knew things weren't good with us. We spent an ungodly amount of money taking our kids to the circus, because that was fun, right? Like, I don't know. And we didn't have the money to do it. A couple $100 in. On the way home, our kids go to sleep. Not a word is spoken. He didn't speak to me the whole way home. He puts the kids down, lays down, falls asleep. The next morning, I walk in, and I was like, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, get up. We're going to talk about this. I don't do well with unrest of not know. Like, I'm going to get to the bottom of it, even if I hate the answer. What's at the bottom? So we go downstairs. He sits on the couch. I fix him a cup of coffee, because why not serve your husband? And
I just love that you said, I fixed him a cup of coffee.
I fixed him a cup of coffee. It's very Southern, right? And I'm fixing it. And I said, what's going on? Is there somebody else? And he said, yes. What's your relationship with her? He was like, oh, we're just talking. He did not want to answer. And I said, have you kissed her? And he was like, yes. I said, have you slept with her? And he said, yes.
Oof.
And I was like, okay, how many times? And he said, I don't know. Like, he was done answering those questions. And I was like, don't you effing lie to me. Was this a one-night stand? He said, no, I'm in a relationship with her. So I was like, okay, we can get through this. He's like, I don't want to get through this. Like, I want to end this and continue a relationship with her. And I said, oh boy, like, what do I do? Because I'm a problem solver. I'm a talker. I work things out. I make things happen. I literally fell down on the floor, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I heard the audible voice of God. I can't say that I've heard that more than once, maybe twice in my life, but he said, you can lay there and be a victim, or you can stand up and fight. You choose. So I stood up, and I said, we can get through this. And he was like, no, really, I don't want to. And I was like, now what? Like, I stood up, and he was home for a week. And it was a battle for a week of me trying to talk sense into him. Well, there's no talking sense into that. Like, I'm not going to talk him out of what he was doing. And I was a mess. Like, I remember calling my brother, and I was like, and Ron was like, what? Because my brother and my husband are very close. Now what? Right? Like, luckily, we've not had that many friends divorce. Crazy enough, the majority of our people are all still married. And, but I really protected him. Something a friend of mine said was, the man you love is his spirit, because that's who he is. That's his spirit man. The person who did this is his flesh. You have to divide them and fight for him. Now, fighting for a man who's not fighting for our own marriage, that's a hard, hard thing to do.
How did you separate the two?
I think because when he was in front of me, he was such a different person. Like, it was like I didn't know it. Like, there's a picture that is burned into my brain. He's sitting in our house. You could kind of see down the stairs. It was a split level. He's sitting on that couch, and our 4-year-old maybe daughter is on his lap. And it was like it was a shell of him. And I don't know how to describe it other than my heart broke for his division. Like, he was it bad? Because that's not who he is. You know, this would have been an easy thing. Oh, this is who you are. This is who you are, is a man that cheats and leaves his family for a bartender who, you want to talk about as polar opposite from me, like in every aspect. He came home with bite mark bruises. Like, it was,
Oh God, girl.
yeah, it was hard. And I was like,
God.
you're not going to win. Marriages are under attack like they have never been. But it's not just the marriage. They're coming after our kids. And I refuse to let the enemy take my husband and take my children. I'm not going to do it. I'm a fighter. I just have to know where to direct my fight. You going to put me to fight? Oh, I will fight, but I'm not going to fight the person. Because my belief, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual powers and principalities, spiritual wickedness in high places. Who's the enemy? If I made Matt the enemy, I lost. I lost him. I lost our kids. I lost our marriage. And I believe that our marriage it's exactly what I said. If we suffer in secret, nobody wins. Nobody gets help. So we don't keep it a secret. And it's hard because it's easy to be the wife who won, who stands on this side of victory. But my husband was suicidal for a year after we got back together because he lived in such guilt and torment. So this was late January that all of this kind of came out. And he was home for a week. He said he needed to take a break from me, take a break from her, kind of make a decision. Valentine's Day comes. Well, that's the day he'd made his decision that he was fully done with me. Happy Valentine's Day.
Jesus.
But I don't take no for an answer. I just don't. I truly believe we are a covenant. A covenant can't be undone. A marriage vows can be broken. Religiously, spiritually, whatever, biblically, I had every right to leave. Like, it's pretty clear. Like, I could, but did I want to? I didn't. I did not feel released from that marriage. There's a lot that goes into the spiritual part of it, but looking back all these years later, it's the best thing that our marriage ever went through. It's the best thing I ever went through as far as my growth spiritually. Because I was so in tune with what the Holy Spirit was saying to me. I know the voice of God when I hear it. Like, I have no doubts now. So it made my spiritual walk so much stronger. Because one of the things the Lord said to me was, because Matt had cut everybody out. He was not talking to anyone, not his parents, not my family, not his friends, because they were all like, what are you doing? Like, you're being stupid. We didn't want to hear it, right? Like, he did not want to hear it. He wanted to be immersed in life, and he was 4 hours away, so it was easy to be cut off. But he would still talk to me for some reason. He would still talk to me. He would still talk to his friend Julian, who was a lay counselor. And I knew I could not have him cut that tie, because if he cut the tie with me, I'd lost. And so the Lord said, you pursue him like I pursue the lost. It's the love of God. It's your love that will keep that open. And if you walk in love, you don't remind him, you don't threaten him, because everybody wanted me to lawyer up and get a private eye. And I'm like, no, because then I'm giving in. I'm not doing that. And I literally just prayed and prayed and prayed. And one night, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was exhausted, from doing all this momming by myself and fighting. It's exhausting. Mentally, physically, spiritually, all of it. I woke up, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I felt this urge, like, go pray. It's like, I don't want to get up. Can I just do it right here? And no. So I go downstairs. I had this little corner in my little office that I would just kind of sit, and that was my spot. I don't think there was anything special about it. It's just where I went. And I had this image come into my mind, and it was like a boxing ring. You know, there's like that game where you've got that red little boxer and that little blue. That's kind of what I saw.
Sock 'em, sock 'em. Yes.
Totally what I saw in my mind. And it was like, Matt and I were lined up against, like, corner to corner. And then the Lord was like, you have always fought against each other. And then it was like in the next instance, it was like Matt was inside the ring and I was on the outside. And I was telling him what to do. He was like, you've either fought against each other or you've been telling him what to do. You've never locked arm in arm and fought side by side. I didn't have it modeled for me. That wasn't, neither one of us came from happy marriage homes. So that was never modeled. And our society, I will not get on this tangent, but our society, sitcoms, everybody acts like men are just another child. I've got 3 kids. Like it's this, men are stupid. We do not that they need to be elevated, but we're different. We're different. I see it as true partnerships. There's strengths, there's weaknesses, and we complement each other. But that's not society. Society acts like men are stupid and you have to boss them around and it's not healthy. So when that's modeled, that's what you do, right? Like But at
the same token, I feel like society also does that with women, right? In marriages.
They can.
We're necessarily stupid or that we need to be led. Just like I feel like sitcoms and society tends to model wives in such a way that is also unfavorable.
True. Because neither, and I guess that doesn't make for great comedy if you're both in your places, in your roles, and you're
creating,
right, and you're moving forward. That doesn't great.
What the hell's wrong with all of us? That that's where we are.
Yeah,
that's what we're tuned into.
Yes, and so fast forward 6 or 8 weeks. I guess maybe about 6 weeks from the kind of the start of it. Brady's birthday is at the end of February. So he was first grade. I guess he was turning 8, whatever that is, and maybe 7. And Matt had called me and he said, "I'm going to come home for Brady's birthday." And I was like, "Well," it was during the middle of the week. I said, "Well, I'm going to school to have lunch with him. What do you mean that you're like?" He was like, "Well, I'm in town." So he'd come into town. He'd never moved out of our house, none of that, because he was traveling so much. He was staying at the company condo.
The company had a condo?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, yeah. Bad news bears.
Right. And so we had a long talk that night. And I think it took, not that 8 weeks is a long time, because listen, I've got friends who've been battling this for 10 years. So 8 weeks, I feel like, was a very short season. That's not lost on me. It was still awful. And so we had some kind of pointed conversations because his kids mean everything to him. And I'd not put any limits on that. So I said, well, if you're going to be home this weekend, here's how this is going to go down. This is what you want. You can have the kids during the day and you're going to bring them home and I'm going to feed them dinner. You're not going to be here. This is my house now. And I'm going to bathe them. I'm going to tuck them in. You can have them during the day. You want to be a part-time dad? This is what you signed up for.
Yeah.
And that, at that time, was, I think, the thing that was like, oh goodness, this is real. Like, this isn't just fun. Because I don't know that I said that part. The Lord was like, don't say anything I wouldn't say. He shut my mouth, and that is not easy to do. But I remember being like, should I say? I never, this is probably the most proud thing of my life. I never weaponized it. I never threw it in his face. Still to this day, never. have I been like, well, you? Because why? Like, I want a good marriage. Why would I hurt him like that? Like that, words are painful, right? Yeah. And so Matt's story is that he felt like he had like this darkness. Like he said, and every time he would talk to me or talk to Julian, and we spoke in love, because Julian was like, dude, I love you. I'm not ever going to support this. I will always have your back, but I will never support that. He said every time it was like this little piece of darkness would fleck off, and it was like a little bit more light would come through until finally he was like, what am I doing? And the healing journey was long. It was longer and harder, honestly. Of course, probably that makes sense. But yeah. He came home for Brady's birthday. Prior to that, he had said he would not do any counseling. He didn't want to talk about it. He certainly didn't want to have his mind changed. And he came home I saw him on Brady's birthday at school, and he'd lost like 30 pounds in a matter of a few weeks. I was like, yeah, that's because that's not who you are. It's not who you are. And, God, we got to have people in our lives that remind us of who we are. Like, call us to who we are. Pull us to who we are. Elevate us to that. Like, yeah, you need a reminder of who you are. This isn't it. And that weekend, we went and met with Julian, his friend was a lay counselor. And the thing that Matt kept saying to me was, I love you, I'm not in love with you. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know. But I get that a lot.
And I'll tell you, a colleague of mine said to me, I think after I got married and before I got married, he said to me, the trick of a long marriage is to not fall out of love at the same time. Because you will fall in and out of love over the years because, marriage is hard. But the trick is to not fall out of love at the same time.
That's good.
That was said to me by a man, too, which I was like, oh, that's insightful, sir.
It is. Well, you've probably been married a long time. And
more than once.
That's funny. So we went into this counseling session. We were there for 6 hours.
Wow.
And we walked in, Julian said, let's get crystal clear. Not only do you still love your wife, you're in love with her and it's written all over you. The waterworks started and...
For you or him?
Me.
Oh, okay.
Because Matt was like, what are you talking about? He had this gruff. And it's funny because he's not gruff at all. And so we talked through a whole lot of things. It was not fun. And Matt's also not a blurter, but we talked about his job, and he said, my job's the problem, I know it, and I'm going to quit on Monday. Oh, God. And he did. He went in, and he was like, my marriage is more important. I can't do this. So they actually kept him on locally for about 6 months or so, I don't really remember, several months, until he found something to replace it. And on the back side of that, I had to watch him mourn a broken heart because he hurt this girl. And he was another man in her life of a long line of men who had hurt her. And he was another one. So like, here I've hurt my family, but I've hurt this woman, and I can't talk to her because my family is at stake. And I remember him, I was so glad he was home, right? Like, whew, it's over. I remember him standing there cooking breakfast. I think he was making eggs one morning, and just having that distant stare. And I was like, he's thinking about her.
Oh, God.
And it was brutal. And something that my counselor had said was, you're not even going to be in the same boat for a little while, much less going in the same direction, but you just can't let each other drown. And she said, when he picks up the lead, that headship will be righted and it will never be undone. but you cannot do it. You can't pick it up, and you can't pick it up for him. And for somebody who feels like they have to have a direction to go in, a purpose, a plan, to just be feeling like you're floating maybe in two different rivers, I don't even know, was hard. It was very, very hard. And so that was, February. We rolled through for a few months of feeling very lost. August, we get a foreclosure notice.
Oh, God. I'm
like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I cannot do another battle. Long story short, through just crazy open doors that happened, we didn't lose our house. Like our sale date was like December 22nd. We're looking at like losing our house, 3 days before Christmas.
Jeez.
Merry Christmas, right? About a week before our sale date, we got approval. We had applied for this Hardest Hits Funds program that kept people from foreclosure who'd been hit hard during the economy, right? And that saved our house. And it's still a very hard, lean Christmas, right? But we had a home, we had a family, and from there, we just began to rebuild. And it took a long time, but then it was somebody close to us, a very similar thing happened, and they were like, "Can you help us?" Boy, can I? I don't know. There's not and this is what I've learned. I've walked this path. He and I have walked it with multiple couples. I've helped a lot of women, kind of. Every woman who's walking through this wants a calculation, do this, plan this, say, it's not there. Yeah. Everybody's situation is different. We all have our own free will. You can't manipulate the situation to make it work. I've seen it work and I've seen it not. And I know what worked for me and for us. But I also know what our level of commitment was to each other. Like, he was in a stupid place and fell victim to. And then I kind of got a glimpse of it on my own side of how easy it could happen. Yeah. I did not have an affair. Nothing happened. Nothing. But there was a situation that arose that you see how easy it can happen if you don't have very clear boundaries, very clear communication. When lines get blurred, you're in a very dangerous spot. But the Lord was like, don't think that you're any better. Because it's not that somebody, maybe, but Matt did not go out and be like, that girl right there, I'm risking my entire marriage for her. No, she was a bartender and he'd had some drinks and it was a little casual flirting and a little inappropriate, and then a little, I'm going to take my wedding ring off. Like it's inch by inch. It's a slippery slope. And then you're there. And then you've had sex with the bartender in your truck.
Oh, God.
And now how do you go back? Because you can't undo it. So that's our story. When did I say? 13 years past it, something like that. Not quite that many. 11 years. It's been 11 years. 11 years. And I'm not going to say that, it's been perfect. Like, it's still marriage is still very hard. But I think our level of commitment to each other is so different. Because we're like, look, if we went through that, there's nothing we're not going to get through together. But the key is together. Like, if we stop talking to each other, if he becomes not my person and I turn to somebody else, it doesn't have to be somebody of the opposite sex, it can just be somebody else that I tell my wins to, that I tell my losses to, anybody that gets first place, our marriage is at risk. And that's dangerous. It's dangerous and it's easy. It's easy, right? And so you work every single day to not ever get back there. And our kids didn't know until like maybe a year or two ago
Oh, wow.
Because how do you tell them?
Well, yeah, that was literally going to be my first question, right? And then how do you tell them, and then how does their perception of your husband, their father, not change?
It was easy with my son. He was older. He kind of had some memory of like weirdness.
Yeah.
But he didn't know the ins and outs. He's like, I kind of thought that might have been it. He was like, but you're good. Easy. Woo, not with Abby. So, like, when do you tell her? Do you tell her when she's a teenager and very impressionable of like her opinion of her dad because her dad hung the moon? Do you wait until they're married and then they're like,
Say what? Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's really no right answer. And an opportunity presented itself, and I just said, we've been through it, Abby. Like, we've been there. And we're still good. Like, it happened so many years ago that you don't have to worry about it. Like, it's not new. It didn't happen 6 months ago. It happened 10 years ago at that point. And, I mean, I think she still struggles with it a little bit because she's 15.
Yeah.
She's had boys cheat on her. So she's like, all men are the same. My dad's no different. It's not the same. It's different. You're not married. Actually, the stakes are much greater when you are married. And, but it's given us a great conversation around forgiveness and grace. And yeah, we went through it. No, it will never happen again and us go through it. Like, crystal clear.
Yeah.
I love you. I forgave you. I'm not a forgiving person. I wish I were. And I know that sounds crazy to say that when I'm having this conversation.
I know. Honestly, it really does.
Right. Yeah. But if you know me, I will hold a grudge until one of us are in the ground. So that forgiveness came in that moment when I was laying on the floor and I heard you can stand here, you can lay here and be a victim, or you can stand up and fight. And the science of all of that is that husband-wife sex is one part of your brain, and a pornography addiction, masturbation's a whole other part of your brain. You're trying to achieve this feeling within a marriage, and it's not the same. So then you continue to live this out until this gets healed. Until this gets healed, your marriage is never going to be healed.
And that's a very interesting thing, because I had this conversation with somebody the other day, but is there ever any real healing, right? Because I feel like healing is a very linear journey, and there have been many things for me that I feel like, oh, I'm totally healed from that, right? And then something comes up and I'm like, oh, nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that you're ever fully healed to perfection. Although, again, if I stand on what I truly believe, I believe in restoration, and restoration is better than before. So yes, I think it can be, but I think it's supernatural. I don't think it's humanly possible. I think it's a spiritual journey to get true healing. Because he doesn't struggle with that anymore. Like he doesn't struggle with that pornography. It's gone. There's not even the desire, and it's under control. It's not under control, it's gone. And I mean, that's a big deal. And that's a conversation that we talk about because we have a teenage son. We talk to our kids about these things because they're going to be husbands and wives one day. And something somebody said to me before I ever had kids has stuck with me all these years. She said, we're not raising kids, we're raising men and women. And I thought, that is so profound, because I feel like I'm raising children. But that's not the end goal. Right? The end goal is to raise responsible, upwardly mobile men and women who are going to take a stand for right and wrong, be change makers, not fall for all the stuff society and media pours into us, but be different. We're called to be different.
I don't know. I still just want Sophia to be just right where she is. Yes, I do. I completely agree with that. And I think that women have it so much harder, right? I really, truly believe that. And I worry for her every day as, things get a little more tenuous for women. all over the place. But I really do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hard. Tom and I had a conversation recently. Because the first couple of years are hard, right? They're so hard. And I think, I don't know if this is all women, but because I had Sophia, just literally a month and a half before I turned 40.
Mm-hmm.
I had all these years to just be someone else. That when I don't think I really was prepared for who I would become after her at all.
It changes you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hard.
Mm-hmm.
Big time. Big time. So I totally agree. But we had the conversation. There's where, boom, there it goes. We had the conversation recently because we've been in it, and so we have 1 more year before she's gonna really know what's going on. 1 more year.
Good luck getting it all together. Good luck. I think every Monday I say, okay, I'm going to get my stuff together this week.
Yeah. And I still, my questions are, one, how did you trust him again?
I still think it was supernatural. It was all wrapped in that forgiveness.
Or was it your own, for your own sanity that you had to?
No, I think there was such remorse when he truly was like, oh gosh, what have I done? The remorse was so great. And not laying at my feet, groveling, and, but just I saw a change, right? I saw a change in him. And he went back to who I knew him to be. So I just was like, he'll never do that again. Also, he loves his kids so much, he would never do it again. Yeah. It came, I don't know, immediately, actually. Immediately. It's same thing in the floor. There was a lot that left in the floor. And I don't know. I can't describe it anything other than supernatural.
That's really incredible, honestly. Mm-hmm. I just can't even imagine. I really can't.
Me either, actually. I mean, that's what I mean. It's not mine to even say that was me that gave it. I feel like it was an extension because I was so at fault of who I was in our marriage, who I wasn't for him, that our marriage was a mess because of both of us. It wasn't just him. It wasn't this event. It wasn't like we had a perfect marriage and this event happened. And then now it was, a culmination of a whole bunch of stuff that led to that time, that led to a big decision. Then we had to clean up a bunch of mess.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. How very aware of you. Really, right? I don't know too many women that would have, and for whatever reason, right? I don't know. And I say I would probably have taken his penis, but I don't know. I don't know.
You don't.
Yeah.
You don't know until you're in it. And really you weigh it out of okay, I don't want to be single again. I really don't. I love him. I love our marriage. I love our family. I love all the things. So he was worth fighting for. This opposite side of that coin is I don't want to start over. I don't want the thoughts of having to date, start over, start from scratch. That sounds miserable. He was worth the fight, so I would rather fight for what I already had that I knew was great, that did something stupid, than have to start all over in hopes to find that all over again, because I probably wouldn't. He really is a good man. He's an amazing husband, an incredible dad. He did something stupid who will never do it again and knows it. So it's just grace, right?
Yeah. Was there ever a time where you considered not telling your kids? Or just taking it to the grave?
No, because I feel like there's such an opportunity to have this. And if I didn't tell them, I couldn't do this. Because the last thing I wanted was for somebody to be like, hey, saw your mama's podcast. Right.
So
it felt like a responsibility to them, but I've known for a very long time, I just haven't done anything about it, that this is a thing that we need to be doing. That's another thing the Lord said to me.
Right. You're going to help others.
He said, I've not given you permission to quit yet. And if you quit before I tell you to quit, I'm going to hold you responsible for this is what I heard, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who you are called to minister to. So that weight alone, and that's also a very scary thing of like, where do I go with this? I don't know. I mean, this is probably the most public Facebook, the most public, that Facebook post, I bet I had 10 women reach out and that said, I've been there.
When I read that post, I literally was just like, oh my God, I really, really love this woman. It's like, I really was like, wow, you really don't know what people have been through. And then for you to share it, I was like, oh God, that's just so vulnerable of her. And I love that.
Because I don't like to be vulnerable in a lot of ways.
Right.
Like, I hate going to the gym because I feel vulnerable. I had this epiphany the other day. Nicole and I have been working out at the gym together. And I was like, I don't like coming because I don't feel like I know what to do. I feel vulnerable. I haven't mastered this. I can't walk in and be like, well, I'm going to do this, and this. Because when I get to that point, I'll be Buff City, right? But I'm not there. And, but it's funny how in this, I don't even feel vulnerable. I don't feel vulnerable at all.
That's what you're called to do.
I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. I mean, I would not be like, God told me so. But I think we all have like that other, the higher calling, right, that talks to us or that we hear. I think we're all clairaudient if we're quiet enough to hear it. And I really was immediately like, oh my God. When I finally, after I decided, because I decided after that to launch my podcast, finally, I was like, oh my God, I feel like her sharing that would help so many women. Like, I mean, I think I have like 8 subscribers right now. But I don't think that will be the case forever. Right. At least I hope not. But because like I do think that, you know, what my guests so far have shared, like, is really important. Like, I feel like everybody that I've talked to has given me a handful of things to take away from the conversation. Like, I'm going to definitely hug Tom after this and tell him I love him.
That's right. It's worth the fight. I think it's worth the fight. Like, and that's, this is where I think I'm not called, because of that Facebook post led to somebody reaching out to say, hey, I have a friend going through this. Do you mind if she calls you? I'm happy to talk about my situation, but then it's like they want me to be their counselor, their coach, and if you aren't going to do what I'm going to tell you to do, then I can't help you. Like, it's a battle, and I'm not a therapist. And what I found was it was extremely draining for me to do that one-on-one, because I'm not equipped to do that. Yes, I walked through it. I know what I did. And yet, like I said, there's no formula for it that is going to work. So I think for me, it is definitely a bigger sharing of it than like a one-on-one. I don't feel like I need to go to school to become a therapist and work through marriage counseling. So nope, I'll stick to real estate. But I think I'm incredibly lucky to be able to be on this side of it. Yeah. Because a lot of women have stood for their marriages and the man did not, and they lost. And I can't say the woman didn't do X, Y, and Z. Like, again, not a formula. So, because it takes 2. I just know I'm really lucky to be on this side of it.
I love how non-judgmental you are about that. Like, seriously. Because, like, how many times have we seen in the news, you know, cheating husband, cheating presidents, you know, like all the things. And everybody is so quick to, like, just throw the baby out with the bathwater, for lack of a better analogy, I guess, right? Because everybody is so quick to judge. So quick to judge.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those, if they looked in their own closets deep enough, it's there.
And that's
why close to it.
And that's why they're judging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're, in fact, reflecting their own judgments of themselves.
And there's that whole, like, it's not worth my peace. Like, the anger part of it. And I kind of can be, at times, fueled by anger or spite. I can be fueled by that. But, that tends to be, like, my business. Like, you doubt me, watch me. But in my marriage and in that, I don't want to give all that up. I don't want to give up my peace. I don't want to hold on to that anger. It's exhausting being angry. And it's just it doesn't look good on me. There's not enough Botox in the world for that anger to I don't want it. I don't want to carry it. It's not serving me. And I've worked really hard on letting go of things that are no longer serving me.
So as a mother to a daughter, because I think I would struggle a bit with this, because I do know how important a daughter's relationship is with her father, right? I don't know, like, I guess I don't really have a question around it, but I just wonder how you still handle that with her or for her, right? And how do you think that might shape her future with men?
She's incredibly close to her dad. And Matt's probably way more mothering than I am. Like, he's got that maternal, like, he takes care of her. He's a caretaker. Oh my gosh. I taught my kids to wash their clothes when they were like 8.
I'll probably do the same thing.
Yeah, wash your own clothes. Be independent. I'm raising adults. Matt has such a servant heart. He's like, let me do that for you. Can I get you any? Like, so setting the high bar for a man, holy smokes, whatever dude good luck. Because she is his princess, and she fully walks in that. So I'm not a shopper. I don't enjoy shopping. Her daddy takes her shopping. They do all the shopping together. I mean, I'm talking all the Ulta, all the Sephora, all of it. That's what they do. He's like, I'm your wallet. Let's go. And not in I owe you. There's none of that. It's not a manipulative. She doesn't have that in her. It's not who she is. She knows who her daddy is. But I think it helps to be like, a man that is so good can still be flawed.
We all are.
Right. And so I think she had this little boyfriend, right? And I'll say that. I mean, at 15, she's 15, almost 16, I was in love with Matt by that point, right? So I don't make it small, her feelings. But she was dating this guy and seeing each other, and he's a normal teenage boy and she's very much figuring herself out of, am I a good girl that's like a little straight-laced and still a little bit fun, or am I wild and crazy like a lot of other teenagers? And she really straddles that line of, like, because she leans towards the good girl. But she sees a lot of other people being like, woohoo! But it's just not how she's wired. So we've had many, many conversations. She sends me about 50 TikToks a day. No. Oh, like, I don't have time to watch all this. But she is like, all men are. Like, well, first of all, you can't do blanket statements. Like, all men are not. Even one man isn't always X, Y, or Z. Like, nobody is always or never this or that. And so I feel like I have a good opportunity to shape forgiveness and grace without being a doormat. Because what I will not stand for is for her to lay down and be a doormat and be walked all over. but there's a balance in it of who deserves grace and who doesn't. Like, what's your relationship? What's your relational equity in this relationship? And she listens. She's smart. So I'm not worried about their relationship or her relationship with men. I think she'll be fine. It's why I didn't want to tell her too late in life. And then there'd be this, you aren't the man I've always known. Because I think if you wait till they're 23 or 25, it's like, but everything I knew was a lie. And it's not. It's really not. It was a 3-month season of crazy. And 3 months in the grand scheme of 25 years, 50 years, 75 years of marriage, that'd be amazing, is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And something somebody else told me was, because I'm one of those people that needs to know all the details.
I would too.
And I wish I weren't that way, but I just am. I need to know every little thing, as painful and disgusting, and I hate it. Once I know it, I can put it to rest. If I don't know, I'm going to just spin around it. So something somebody said was, if you know this, does it change the fact that you're going to continue to fight for your marriage? No. So every time I had to come up against that, it's like, it doesn't matter. I'm not moved by what I see or what I feel or what I hear. I'm only going to be moved by truth. And the truth moved me forward. Any of those incidentals didn't. And so I just kind of had to cut it with it doesn't matter. And well, it wasn't easy, but anyway. So I think she'll be fine to answer all that.
What is one thing that you want women to take away from our conversation today?
I think if you really got married, knowing that this person was worth fighting for, if they were worth walking down the aisle with, then they're worth fighting for forever. People change, no doubt. I think the hardest thing in marriage is growing and growing together. Like, you're not always going to grow at the same pace. 100% not going to happen, but you got to go the same direction. And you got to be tightly connected to do that. And it is weekend aways and time together, intentional conversations that, people are like, don't talk about home and don't talk about work. Well, this season in life, that's what we have to talk about. But if I give Matt a voice into my business, because he has incredible discernment about people, I hate that he's right so much. He's like, oh man, he was right. So if I give him a voice into my life and my business, and I'm not like, well, this is mine, you don't get to have a voice. And he listens to me, like there's this overlap of valuing each other and each other's opinions. We tend to grow in the same direction. But it's when we get in our silos that it's very dangerous. Because we weren't meant for that. We were meant for community and relationship. We were built that way. I think that's just it. You have to decide to fight. Always.
Love that. Oh my God, what a conversation. Seriously. Thank you so much for sharing this with me and with whoever is going to listen to this, because I don't know, even if you're, not in that boat, but you're married, I think that everything that you've said today is just like, it hits home for me, like I think that a lot of what you said is really, I think it's so vulnerable.
But change an affair to debt or just any other thing that is harmful to your marriage, like a transgression of any kind. It doesn't have to be an affair. Like, plenty of things ruin marriages that aren't just affairs. Yeah. And I think you choosing to fight through it and work through it together and then never weaponizing it will go a long, long ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I mean, I imagine you don't want people to horridly reach out to you for marriage advice, but if you do need a new house or you want to sell your house, you can find Jill at the Galliher Home Team on social media, on your website. I will surely connect those. Seriously, she's not your marriage counselor, but she will help you sell or buy a home.
I can point you in the direction for some good marriage counselors. I'm just not it. That wasn't my gift.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.